My name is Ashley Giffen, and this is my presentation on Kant's critique of pure reason, and chapters 6 and 7. So the Critique of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant is one of the most renowned works in the school of philosophy. Kant, like most philosophers, sought to change the way in which we think. He prefaced his work by saying, "I do not mean this by this a critique of books and systems, but of the faculty of reason in general, in respect of all knowledge after which it may strive independently of all experience." Kant wanted his readers to learn to be intelligent and independent thinkers, capable of thinking without predispositions and assumptions. In Kant's critique of pure reason, he challenges his readers to become thinkers, voiding ourselves of all previous experiences which may affect the way we reason through our new experiences. In section 6 of Kant's critique, he specifically challenges our analytical way of thinking. First, he challenges Hume's belief that a priori knowledge must be synthetic. Before Hume, it was thought that a priori knowledge was analytic, but Hume suggested it was in fact synthetic. In other words, knowledge relies on previous sensory experiences rather than your analytic understanding. Kant disagreed. He sought to find a way of teaching cause and effect without relying on synthetic knowledge. In other words, without dispositions and thoughts based on previous sensory experiences. In part 7, Kant must lay down specific definitions of the things he was trying to teach his readers in order to lay groundwork for his new type of transcendental philosophy. Transcendental philosophy attempts to describe the fundamental structures of being. Kant wishes to establish knowledge without any a priori experiences the subject may have had. Transcendental philosophy is truly a critique of metaphysics and an introduction to epistemology, or the study of knowledge, how it is acquired, achieved, exemplified, and so on and so forth. I will now further demonstrate how Kant used both parts 6 and 7 of his critique of pure reason to introduce, define, and defend transcendental philosophy. So part 6 of Kant's critique of pure reason is called the general problems of pure reason. And in this chapter, Kant lays down the initial groundwork for what he believes to be truly wrong with the way we have been taught to reason. He also further suggests that the way in which we should approach reasoning, but he doesn't actually defend this way, he just suggests how we should do it, which we'll continue on later in this work. As I said, others before Kant, they believed in the truth that an a priori knowledge must be analytical. It's hard to explain what that really means, so an example of this type of reasoning would be a loud dog is loud. So through analytic reasoning, one can deduce from the first statement, a loud dog, that the dog is clearly loud. Hume did, however, realize that this way of reasoning was not entirely analytic and for the most part is actually synthetic. In other words, no analyzing of the subject or working with the predicate. We didn't have to analyze the loud dog to know that the dog is loud. We just know. Hume reasoned that all knowledge of the predicate must come from prior experiences that establish what we know of the subject. Hume determines that nothing can be deduced from such cause and effect statements as the one above, but rather that all knowledge comes from previous sensory experiences. Hume believes that a priori knowledge must be synthetic. This skepticism relies entirely on the viewpoint that all ideas are manifestations of sensory experiences. Kant agrees with Hume that synthetic reasoning is entirely necessary because analytic reasoning cannot give us any knowledge that is not already self-evident. Kant takes this a step further, however, by considering that a synthetic judgment could be made a priori. Using cause and effect as an example, this would be a way to derive the cause and effect without relying on empirical knowledge. At the end of this section, Kant is left with the problem of how to establish synthetic a priori truths, that the faculty of reason cannot exist independently of all experiences. So that's section 6. So the next chapter, which is chapter 7, is entitled The Idea and Divisions of a Special Science under the title Critique of Pure Reason. Kant lays the groundwork for his ideas on the subject of reason by defining key terms that he believes are important to be fully understood later on. In this chapter, he finally has the opportunity to define the faculty of reason, which he defines as the power that provides us with the principles of a pure cognition. Hence, pure reason is that reason which contains the principles for cognizing something absolutely a priori. With this definition in place, it is now evidently clear what Kant is critiquing. It is Kant's hope that he will critique his is the complete idea of transcendental philosophy. However, the critique is not yet that science itself because it carries the analysis that Kant provides. Kant also declares that his goal of creating such a science is to completely expel any concepts that contain anything empirical. This science that he's creating must remain pure in the sense of a priori thought and knowledge. Even the principles of morality are to be dispelled from this division of science, because although they themselves are a priori cognitions, they bring in empirical concepts to the purest definition of morality. In all ways possible, this faculty of science must remain pure. In the closing of this chapter, Kant defines cognition, since it is the most underlying philosophical principle on which all transcendental philosophy falls. He states that human cognition has two stems, sensibility and understanding, which perhaps spring from a common root, though one unknown to us. Through sensibility, objects are given to us. Through understanding, they are thought. So through sensibility and understanding, we are able to obtain knowledge and ultimately to reason through this knowledge. In chapter 7, Kant establishes both what he is critiquing and what he hopes to achieve through this critique. Kant's critique of pure reason attempts to create a new school of thought, known as transcendental philosophy, that seeks to establish all human cognition a priori. Kant does not want for us to think and reason in such ways that rely on previous experiences that came from our senses, but rather on the faculty of reason that can exist independently of all experiences. Kant does not provide a critique of reason itself per se, but rather, or a critique on reason itself per se, but rather he provides us with a critique as to how we should go about reasoning in order to make us more